Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for more dedicated legacy action. Once again, I managed to get my hands on some Warhammer 40k cards, so we're playing some POXWALKERS in Dredge. So let's just look at this new card first. So it's a 3 mana, 3/1 Death Toucher. Whenever you cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand, return POXWALKERS from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. So that's a pretty useful way of bringing back a creature, and this has a really neat interaction with Cabal Therapy, where you sacrifice this to pay the cost of Cabal Therapy, and then you put Cabal Therapy on the stack and it automatically brings back the POXWALKERS. Obviously, that's pretty bananas with Bridge from Below. So let's go over what Dredge as a deck does first, in case you're unfamiliar. So Dredge is a mechanic where you can replace your draw by taking the top X cards of your library and putting them to your graveyard, and putting this card from your graveyard to your hand. So this has Dredge 6. So if it's in our graveyard, we put it in our hand, put the top 6 cards of our library into the graveyard. So the aim of the game is to just keep putting stuff in our graveyard. So these are our dredges, which will put the stuff in our graveyard once we start going. We have Narcomoebas, which is one of the things we want to get into the graveyard, because this pops out again, as does the Ichorid, as can the POXWALKERS when we start doing Cabal Therapy. We've also got an Ox of Agonas in there. And the bridges, which lets us accrue a bunch of guys. We turn them sideways, we win the game. So our deck is kind of broken down into several compartments. We've got mana here. We've got a couple of piles of different things we want in graveyards that do slightly different things. So that, you know, bridges, POXWALKERS, Narcs, Cabal Therapies, all that. Then we have this, which is ways of putting stuff into our graveyard. So outside of Putrid Imp, the rest of these kind of do other stuff as well. So Careful Study can put stuff in our graveyard, but if you've got dredges, we can draw 2 extra cards, which means we get to dredge twice. So these things are pretty good. Otherworldly Gaze is just another enabler, but this is something that we can cast from the graveyard. So if we're cracking a Lion's Eye Diamond, we can then flashback Faithless Looting or Otherworldly Gaze and just kind of keep things going a bit. So that's the deck. It's quite hard for people to deal with usually, because it kind of attacks on this weird axis that's just, in my opinion, a really great credit to the game of Magic the Gathering, that it lets you play this deck that just operates in a complete different plane of existence than regular decks, really. So it's pretty fun. Sideboard-wise, we've got lots of ways to stop us getting hated by graveyard pieces. So if we need to bounce ley lines and things, we've got Stern Dismissals and Chain of Vapors. We've also got Nature's Claim. If our opponent's like using things like Soul Guide Lantern, Tormod's Crypt, Endurance, that sort of jam, then we can protect ourselves with a ley line. If our opponent's a graveyard deck that might race us, then we can bring these in. We also have this Dread Return and Ashen Rider package, so we can bring this in. This is another thing that we can cast from our graveyard, and we can use it to bring back an Ashen Rider to exile sketchy opponents that we're worried about. We've got Lightning Axe, which is another way of getting dredges into our graveyard in the first place. It can also take out a pretty big scary creature. There's a lot of those in Legacy at the moment, so that's pretty handy. And we've also got this Hogaak. So when we're up against decks where we just want more threats, and we're also not too worried about things like Caracas, we can bring in the Hogaak. So basically against non-white decks, Hogaak's usually going to be pretty good. You quite often see it in the main, but it's in the board for now. And that's the list we're playing today. Trying out some POXWALKERS, and I hope it's going to be a good time. So remember to like and subscribe, and let's just get dredging. If you're looking to play Legacy on MTGO like me, why not try Card Hoarder? They're a rental service that I personally use, and I found them better than other rental services that I've used in the past. So why not give them a try? Alright, our opening hand is pretty strong here. We can keep this. So what we do on this one is we put the Faithless Looting on the stack and then crack our Lion's Eye Diamond and get dredging. Now, our opponent can do a lot of damage to us on turn 1. Oh, Welder. Okay, that's not too bad. So we're just going to try and go hard here. Right, so we'll play out this Lion's Eye Diamond. We don't want to run into Pyroblast either here. So we are just going to be doing this Faithless Looting, holding control so that we can keep priority. Then we'll crack this for triple red. Then we'll dredge this Thug, which hopefully finds another dredger. It does. A Stinkweed Imp. Let's leave our graveyard popped out here. Let's bin these 2. Then we can flash back a Faithless Looting once his Narcomoebas come into play. The engine is a rolling. And now we've got some Grave-Trolls as well, so we can dredge 6 and then another 6. Discard these. So how many bridges have we got? 1 bridge, 2 bridge. Alright, so let's Cabal Therapy targeting our opponent here. We've got 3 bridges. What is yield to this? What are we going to name from our opponent? What am I worried about? Goblin Engineer, I think, because that can go and get graveyard hate. Agatha's Soul Cauldron, Orcish Bowmasters. Soul Cauldron's kind of annoying. I think I will... Okay, our opponent's just scooping up there. So they're probably on the build that we played the other day on the channel, which was really fun, so... Okay. We did the dredge thing. So, how are we going to tackle with what our opponent is bringing? I think the Nature's Claims are going to be pretty useful here. They might have ley lines. It seems relatively likely they have ley lines, so I think we'll probably want to be dealing with those. Lightning Axe can be useful here because our opponent's going to be playing out things like Welder, which lets them reuse a bunch of annoying things. I don't think we want our own ley lines. I think we're better off with possibly having the Lightning Axes and maybe some amount of these things, although they can be an ensnaring bridge deck, so there's obviously room, well not room, but there's possibility for all of these cards. So we have to work out which ones are going. So normally what you would do is like trim on some of your bits and pieces, so you maybe trim like one of your Ichorids, so in this case I guess we'll trim a Poxwalker, and you would trim some of your enablers. I think Otherworldly Gaze is the weakest enabler, to be honest. Breakthrough's quite all in, so we can trim that one. That gives us access to 2 claims and a couple of bounce spells. I don't know if we want the Stern Dismissal or not. I think I'll take the chains. And I think we'll leave it at that for now. Just trying to think if we want this Hogaak in here somewhere. Alright, I'm going to have a Hogaak in there as well. It's a nice big beefcake that can tussle with a bunch of things. Alright, our hand is similar to the last one, but not quite the same. So our opponent's just asking about the Modo bug that exists at the moment, or there was one, where you couldn't name any of the cards that are in the 40k set with like things like Cabal Therapy or Meddling Mage and that sort of thing. Pithing Needle was another one. A Welder, sure. So we have option here. If we don't draw anything we want, anything that actually helps us go here, so we could just do a dredge right now with our Lion's Eye Diamond, or we could just go to clean up and have our Golgari Grave-Troll. Is that actually worth doing here? We'll play this Cephalid Coliseum. We'll play this Lion's Eye Diamond. I'm just going to crack this for triple red and just flash back this looting. Right, so Troll and a Thug. And we'll discard these cards. So we'll use our Narcomoeba. So we've got 1 therapy, no bridges. No, 1 bridge. No Poxwalkers here, unfortunately. Alright, I think we are naming Goblin Engineer again. Right, so there's the Goblin Engineer. Phyrexian Devourer. Pretty cool. They are very much on the build that we played the other day. There'll probably be a few minor differences, like they've got the Bombardiers in there. Right, there's the Ancient Tomb. You can see Bombardiers. So they can sack things and remove our bridges here. But we only have 1 bridge this turn. So they're going to throw this anyway. So we may as well block here. Yeah, they were going to do this anyway to remove our 1 bridge. Right, they're going to choose to take out a zombie. Fair enough. Alright, so we've got an Ichorid trigger. I think I'll remove a Putrid Imp here. And then we'll dredge the Troll. What do we hit here? No bridges. We do have a Hogaak for later. Okay, so let's just bash for a little bit. We've got another Troll to dredge next turn. And then hopefully we can put this Hogaak into play. Right, so there's the Saga. This represents Graveyard Hate in a couple of turns. Swing out here. They might hold this back so that we can't just get them for 3 with a Ichorid attack. But alright. So they're going to let us trade a little bit here. So I'll remove a Thug here. Dredge the Troll. Hit Cabal Therapy. We hit a Poxwalker. That's really... Right, so we'll go to attacks first. So we can cast this Poxwalker. We can cast this Cabal Therapy, but it doesn't actually get us any additional threats on board. So are we supposed to do that or not? 1, 2, 3, 4... I think we're supposed to wait another turn. I want to try and have a really big turn next turn before the Graveyard Hate comes down. So I want to try and get this Hogaak into play alongside some threatage. Alright, in comes the broadside. I'm going to follow up with a painter this turn so they can just windmill us out next turn. Let's find out. A tiger. So probably on the build with Haywire Might. 4 mana, 5 mana. A Chaos Defiler. Okay. That doesn't do anything this time around, but it will do next time around. Understood. So when it leaves play, it also does its thing. Right, we've got a Thug still, so that can go. Dredge a Troll. We're going to hit good here. We hit a bridge. So attacking with this doesn't really achieve everything I would desire. Yeah, we're in a bit of trouble, I think, here. So we can Cabal Therapy, target our opponent, sacrificing this. I think we named Painter just so they can't do it all in one go against us. Alright, it's just a Devourer they have there, and a land. Do we have another therapy? Because that's what we need to put this Hogaak on the stack. We do not. Alright, I think our opponent is going to win this game. Because they're going to go and get Salt Red Lantern now. And that's going to cause us a little bit of distress. Okay, now Spellbomb. Same but different. Immediately cracking it. And raining very much on our parade. We had a pretty unfortunate series of dredges. I've seen half of our deck, but like one Narcomoeba. Right, there's a Petal. Just casting the old Phyrexian Devourer. Pretty cool. This is actually useful because they can sacrifice it whenever. They can also just sacrifice it to this guy. Yeah. Okay. So we're looking at the spell bomb here. I don't know if they have ley lines. The build I played the other day did have ley lines, so not sure if we're supposed to board in these ley lines of sanity for this. Sanctity, sorry, not sanity. Tricky. I think we just roll in again as is. Like the Nile Spellbomb is a little bit slow if they're like cheering for it. So what does this hand do? Very little. Let's mulligan it. What does this hand do? Not a lot. Let's mulligan. Okay. I can keep this one. So we keep Mana Confluence, Cephalid Coliseum, and I guess we get rid of Gemstone Mine, and would I rather have a bridge in the graveyard or another dredger? Interesting choice. I think it's probably a bridge. Oh wow, this is panned out excellently for us. So we could just fire this right now and try and have a really explosive turn one, or we could play the Cephalid Coliseum and have a little bit more staying power. I think I'm going to take the risk that our opponent's got a turn one Spellbomb, because it's probably a one of in their deck. There's a Petal. Unreal. Okay. So I guess we force them to do this, to do something here. Oh, yikes. Okay, we'll play the Cephalid Coliseum. And I guess we're going to go to our opponent's turn. Yeah, this is going to be a tricky one. Let's see how much value our opponent wants out of the Spellbomb. So we could have gone hard and just not got anywhere. As well. We could have put a load of stuff in the graveyard and then have our opponent just vaporize it all. The Goblin Welder, sure. Agatha's Soul Cauldron. Okay, so we're going to flash this back first. Put into graveyard, put into graveyard. We'll put on top of the library, I guess. No, put it into graveyard, that's fine. Alright, is this good enough to get something from our opponent? 2 Narcomoebas, a Cabal Therapy. It is, okay. I don't have the mana to at least draw a card off of this, so that's something. Okay. So we don't get our little illusions. And they have this piece of graveyard hate, which is very annoying. Cabal Therapy. Right, we'll play out this Lion's Eye Diamond. We will Cabal Therapy targeting us. So we're going to put our Grave-Troll into the graveyard here. And they're just going to exile it, which is unfortunate for us. I'm not sure how we're supposed to get out of this. I guess we're supposed to just sit there and draw cards and hope that we draw one of our bounce spells here. Yeah, that was probably a mistake there. Engineer. Yeah, I don't know how I'm supposed to come back from this. Because we can't ever bounce the Cauldron because it just becomes a spell bomb. So they've sort of hardlocked our graveyard. I think we can just call it a day here. Yeah, like we're not supposed to play the do the Grave Troll there, but we are kind of just completely screwed at that point because they have 2 pieces of graveyard hate, and if we answer one, the other one automatically kicks in. So we would need to have a removal spell and a way of going off, and we don't really have that. Certainly not instant speed like that. All right, we are 0-1. Let's get around 2. Yeah, we just get to go really hard here, so let's do that. Main deck Endurance will not be our friend, but we'll see. City of Brass. Lion's Eye Diamond. You got a counter spell. This is a pretty good target for it. Okay, we're going to hold priority. We're going to cast this. Crack this for triple red. And let's get dredging. Stinkweed Imp, please. And then a Golgari Grave-Troll. Discard our hand. Put a Narcomoeba into play. We're going to flashback this Faithless Looting, which will bring back our Poxwalkers. Yeah, we're doing it. Troll. Imp. And discard them both. Alright, our opponent's scooping it up there. So in this turn, we're also going to Cabal Therapy our opponent. We have 1 bridge, 2 bridge, 3 bridge. So that's going to be pretty good. We don't really know what our opponent's doing though. So that's a bit awkward. In the blind against your opponent, you're probably supposed to board in Chain of Vapors and probably it's the Nature's Claims, just to be on the safe side. So I think we're probably trimming Otherworldly Gaze here. Maybe Putrid Imp's a black creature though. Possibly these breakthroughs. Our opponent paws like they might have counterspells in their deck. Let's take out another Gaze here. Try like this. Or we take out one of the Poxwalkers. Let's try that. Sure, this hand is very good at doing dredge stuff, but if we get stuck underneath an opponent's permanents. But there's no Leyline in play turn 1, so that's good. A basic island, so we're going to get an idea of what our opponent's playing, hopefully. Or hopefully not, but we can just like wallop them and have a fun time. Alright, so there is a Mox Opal, so we could be looking at some kind of 8-cast style deck. They usually run a couple of islands. And nothing interesting. So our opponent looks like they're holding up Metallic Rebuke. Right, maybe we're supposed to just draw and discard there. In case they are counterspelling this. Alright, no, we're just in, are we? So let's get rid of a Troll and a Thug. And I'm not going to do anything just yet. I'm going to give it another turn and then play the Coliseum. Because then when we dredge, we have 2 options if they have like a graveyard wipe. So we can put the Faithless Looting on the stack, and then if they try and combo us, try and hit our graveyard to stop us from comboing, we can then Cephalid Coliseum in response. We'll see what our opponent's got here. Welding Jar. That's an unusual one. I don't know, Patches maybe? Okay, Golgari Lantern is annoying. Goodbye, Golgari Thug. Golgari Thug? Not the Grave-Troll, that's interesting. He's going to wipe our whole graveyard here. So we can't destroy their Golgari Lantern, so we've got to make them play through it. X equals 1. Okay. But we do have a 0 drop here. So, Grave-Troll, can I get this Narcomoeba, or are you going to say no to this? So what we can do is just draw next turn and then put a Dredger in the graveyard. That's going to be my plan. Right, we obviously can just go all in on a Lion's Eye Diamond, but it doesn't always get us where we need to be. Prince drawing a card off the bauble. Stinkweed Imp. Okay, so I think we're just going to go to the end step here and just discard a Grave-Troll. Next turn we can play the Cephalid Coliseum and the Lion's Eye Diamond. And we don't have to crack the Lion's Eye Diamond. Because, actually, well, if we crack the Lion's Eye Diamond, that will give us threshold for our Coliseum. But we can sort of see how things lie here. Yep, this is not going to be the thing that's going to beat us necessarily. It's going to be their graveyard hate that beats us, not their little guy that's scaling up. Right, so let's put 6 cards in our graveyard. So we'll get this Narcomoeba back. We don't have a Dredger in the graveyard is the problem. So if we play this Lion's Eye Diamond, they counterspell it. That's not going to help us out. So I think we're supposed to slow it down and just discard a Grave-Troll again. We can still cast things like Cabal Therapy, but they will not resolve because of the chalice. But we do get to get the cast trigger, so we'll get to bring back Poxwalkers if we have those, and we'll also be able to exile, like sacrifice guys. Scorpec Lord. Other artifact creatures you control get +1/+0 and have menace. Okay. Pretty cool. Not seen this one. I play a bit of Warhammer 40k myself, so enjoying seeing these new cards come in. That's got menace, so we're not blocking. We don't have the most amount of time now. Alright, let's play out this Cephalid Coliseum, which we can pop if we need to. Let's play out a Lion's Eye Diamond. Have you got a counterspell for this opponent? You do not. That is interesting. So, crack this for triple blue. We'll cast this Otherworldly Gaze. Oh wait, that doesn't do anything, does it? Whoops. My brain today. Alright. Let's just Cephalid Coliseum here. Did we not hit any Narcomoebas there? Got some bridges though. So, how many bridges? 1 bridge, 2 bridge, 3 bridge, 4 bridge. Okay, so we're going to be casting Cabal Therapies here. These won't resolve. We'll get back our Poxwalkers though. We've got another Cabal Therapy in there as well that we can fire off. Sack this Poxwalker. Immediately comes back. We got any more Cabal Therapies in there? Nope, we do not. So I should have added red mana with our Lion's Eye Diamond in case we found an Ox of Agonas. Because the Otherworldly Gaze is a 1 mana spell. Despite what my brain may have thought for a brief second when I was playing it for 2 mana. We've got a selection of creatures. We have lethal damage, so they have to hold something back on blocks. Guess there's a world where they could attack us with this guy, yeah. And next turn, if they grow it, then it can kill us. But I think we're just taking it now. Because they'll have to block and make them regenerate, I suppose. We're seeing here for 2 mana. Thought Monitor. That works here. So if we can find another way of sacrificing this Poxwalker, we can get 4 more blockers. Okay, another Scorpec Lord. Interesting they're playing that after they've attacked. Because that cost them 2 points of damage. Which might not be relevant, but... Right, it's got an Ichorid coming in. Get rid of Thug. We'll dredge a Grave-Troll. There is a Cabal Therapy. So we get to stack the triggers as we want if their creatures die. Are we supposed to... So we have 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. They can block 6 of this, which is exactly lethal. So we swing. And they have to be blocking these 3 ones. Well, I think they're just dead, right? Alright, yeah. So, beating one piece of Graveyard Hate like a Soulgate Lantern or a Tormod's Crypt is not that difficult for Dredge to do, as long as they're not under a horrible quick clock. So we're on the board. Poxwalkers look pretty good there. When you start chaining Poxwalkers and Cabal Therapy, makes you feel like a bit of a god, I think. It's pretty strong. Alright, let's go to round 3. This hand is okay. We have the ability to do some stuff. Keep. It's a little bit slower than I necessarily like, but our turn 2 should be very explosive. This Thoughts is... can do some stuff, but we want these cards in our graveyard anyway, to an extent. They'll probably take the Breakthrough. Yeah. 1 mana, draw 4. Pretty scary for our opponent to deal with. A Faithless Looting. Don't mind if I do. Put this in the graveyard. And I guess this. Lion's Eye Diamond. Lion's Eye Diamond. Let's crack 1 for blue. And Otherworldly Gaze first. Okay, we'll put Poxwalkers, Grave-Troll, and Ox of Agonas into our graveyard. Crack this for red. So how many is this? This is Escape 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, we're not really good at doing it 1 for 8 right now, are we? Right, so we get our Poxwalkers back as a bare minimum. Alright, we got a Force of Will here. But we have The Golgari Grave-Troll in the graveyard. Ponder, sure. Our opponent's going to be sculpting the hand to deal with our graveyard. I think the time of counter spells is gone. They managed to get some reasonable value with that Force of Will. They shuffled off that Ponder. Let's dredge the troll. Got ourselves a friend here. Tap for 3. We've got 1 bridge and 1... Was it 1 bridge? No therapy, actually, right? So I guess we're just going to pass. We'll be dredging a Thug next turn. There goes the Polluted Delta. Teferi Time Raveler. Sure. You're going to bounce our Poxwalkers? Sure. We can defeat this Teferi with an Narcomoeba attack. I will dredge a Thug. We will attack Teferi. I will Cabal Therapy. Sacrifices Narcomoeba. Get some friends. What do we name here? Brainstorm? Or is it... Do we think they're on breakfast? If they're on breakfast, they might be able to get us here. So I think we name Cephalid Illusionist. The One Ring and consider. Okay, the One Ring is interesting. Right, we'll pass. We got 7 power in play. So playing out the island. So I'm going to play the One Ring this turn. So we can't Cabal Therapy targeting them, but we can Cabal Therapy targeting ourselves. There could be Doomsday as the other option here. Let's dredge a Stinkweed Imp. Otherworldly Gaze. That doesn't do anything here. Bridge from Belows. We got an Ichorid coming next turn. That's 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. They draw a card. And that'll be lethal on their next upkeep. Okay. Alright. I believe our opponent is on Doomsday, since we've seen the Consider. Now we're seeing a Preordain. So this turn has to be the turn where they go off. Unless they can play another One Ring. There's a Dark Ritual. They've already used the Doomsday though. Sorry, they've already used the One Ring activation. We do know they have this Consider though, so they should be able to consider into some amount of cyclers. They're going to 5 here. But they've got plenty of lands. They'll need blue. So if they have access to any other mana or a Brainstorm, they should be able to win this turn. Alright, they made their pile very quickly. They're just Edge of Autumning over there. There's a Lion's Eye Diamond. Now they're going to cast a Consider, crack the Lion's Eye Diamond. Yep. And then they're going to cycle a Street Wraith or an Edge of Autumn. Or they're just going to play a Thassa's Oracle like this because they know we're unlikely to have interaction. Pretty reasonable to assume. Okay. So that wasn't great for us. Losing game 1 isn't really where you want to be with the old dredge. So what are we going to do about this? I think Dread Return Ashen Rider I kind of like because you can mess with your opponent's mana, and that's one of the few ways we get to interact with our opponent. Their graveyard hate is probably Spell Bombs. I think that's pretty usual. I think Hogaak's actually going to be reasonable here. I think we just want a couple of chains. And we'll be trimming on some Otherworldly Gaze here. We definitely do want like Lotus Petals here because we need to be coming out the blocks a little faster. So we trim on the Poxwalkers. We can trim 1 Thug. Like, this is an interesting one because Breakthrough is both good and bad at the same time, right? We need the speed that Breakthrough can offer us. But at the same time, it's a bit all-in against counter spells. I think I'm going to go rather into the all-in here. Could be a mistake, but we'll see. Like, our hand does a thing. I guess we keep it. We get to dredge 10 cards on turn 1. But we are going to be just, like, hellbent pretty much from the off. Can I have a Lion's Eye Diamond, please? We can. Let's cast Faithless Looting. Force of Negation. Okay. Pitching Force of Negation. So now we are on the slow dredges, but we've got our dredges in the graveyard. Our opponents start on a white mana source, so they're going to need to find a ritual. to go off in any sort of reasonable time frame. Right. We did a dredge. We got no free creatures. It's our opponent's turn. There is a swamp. It's just going to be a ritual now. A Lotus Petal. Okay. Sure. Is this just going to be drawing a card? No, they're plussing it. Interesting. So this is going to answer our Hogaak. If we get into play anyway. That doesn't do anything here. We need some bigger dredges. So we're looking at getting some Narcomoebas in soon. Right, so just drawing a card with a Teferi now. There's a Brainstorm. Now we can lose the game at any minute. That's the power of Doomsday. Yeah, I think the Scrubland in game 1 should have been a giveaway that they weren't playing Breakfast. But we're never naming the one ring they had. That would have been the useful thing. Okay. Yep, we're just kind of doing nothing over here. I think Manaless Dredge is in an interesting spot right now. I would like to try it. I don't know if it's good, but I think we'll try that at some point as well. The reason I mention it is because if you're playing a Manaless Dredge deck, pretty much all of your dredges are going to be hitting something that does a thing. Whereas at the moment, we're not actually doing anything. Alright, we finally started to do something. Cool. Okay, so we can Cabal Therapy, tagging ourselves. Put these Grave Trolls into our graveyard. Okay, so now we can put this Hogaak into play. We can Cabal Therapy and make some more zombies. And we can play Hogaak again. Alright. We have 20 power in play. But if our opponent casts a Doomsday, they're going to be able to draw 2 cards into their pile. And that's probably going to be, well, 3 cards because they got the Teferi as well. Yep, so this should be game over at this point. Because their Doomsday pile is basically just 2 cards. And then 3 cards go straight to their hand. I don't think we're going to beat that. I think Doomsday is the superior combo deck at the end of the day. Obviously, they have a little bit less redundancy than we do. Because obviously we're just, you know, we can sort of just churn and we have lots of, you know, dredges and things that work. Whereas our opponent does specifically need Doomsday. But they're pretty good at finding it. So they got 3 pips because of the Teferi. So this will win the game. Alright, yeah, we got clapped pretty hard. And I imagine this matchup's going to be a little bit tough unless we just have a really savage turn 1 where we get to Cabal Therapy them a bunch. But we're a little bit slow. They had a well-placed counterspell that slowed us down just enough. Let's go to round 4, I think it is now. Alright, our hand is fine here. We get to do our thing. And then Cephalid Coliseum afterwards. If only we could play more copies of Lion's Eye Diamond. Alright. We definitely want a Cephalid Coliseum in play, so. Alright, we'll get rid of this Stinkweed Imp and this Cabal Therapy. Or we'll get rid of a bridge. Sure. So next turn we can play out our other Coliseum and then cast a Breakthrough where X equals 1. And just dredge a bunch. Again, game 1 shouldn't be a problem for us to win. That's kind of how our deck functions. We could always just break through where X is 1 and play around a daze. That seems pretty worthwhile. If our opponent's got a counterspell. Okay, they don't have a counterspell. Excellent. Thug, Imp. And I guess it's a Thug. And we have to discard our hand because we paid 0 for the X cost. We get Narcomoeba. We get to Cabal Therapy our opponent here. Alright, our opponent's just scooping up before we get to see what they're playing. So again, we're sideboarding in the dark. But we know a Flooded Strand, so what does that normally mean? All host of different things is the problem. So I think we'll get a couple of chains in. Chains. They could have something to bounce. You know, they could have some like Containment Priest level stuff. We just don't know what they have, which is kind of awkward. Tempted to bring the Dread Return, the Ashen Rider in. Trying a POXWALKERS for that. Alright, let's try this. We don't really know much about what our opponent's deck's doing, but it could be like Show and Tell or something, so having an Ashen Rider as an option isn't the worst. What does our hand do? We will draw, and then discard a Golgari Grave-Troll. And then what? I think we can do better than this. Alright, this one is A-okay with me. We probably don't need all of this land. We don't really want these cards in our library. But we're not going to shuffle our library, so they're going to be on the bottom. Whatever we put on the bottom is going to be on the bottom for like the whole game. So I guess we want to put a land on the bottom. And we can probably work our way through these. Because we've got a Cephalid Coliseum and a Careful Study. Okay, our opponent's on maybe Rhinos. Tribal Rhino deck. Let's see. A Ponder. Not fetching, just casting it off of the Misty Rainforest. Interesting. That is better for the purposes of like cantrips and stuff down the line. But if you can... Oh, they're not really worried about wastelands and stuff from us, because that's not what our deck does. Okay. Let's cast a Careful Study. Our opponent should counterspell this if they have one. But if they're Rhinos, they probably have just Pitch Pen. Oh, okay, they're not Rhinos, they've got Spell Pierce. Interesting. I don't really know what our opponent's playing then. Right, so they crack that in their upkeep to get rid of those Ponder cards. Beanstalk with Leyline. What is the purpose of this Leyline? I do not know. Right, let's go to casting our bad creatures. Here's a Thug. Problem is, their removal is likely to be exile removal, so it's not really going to help us out as much as you would hope. But we got plenty of bad creatures where that one came from. Right, Otherworldly Gaze is a good card here. I think we're Otherworldly Gaze and our opponent's turn to play around Force of Negation. You don't really want that getting exiled. Xander's Lounge. Sure. Another Beanstalk. This is probably our time to cast this Otherworldly Gaze. I guess we're just going to cast the Otherworldly Gaze again, so might as well just put them all in. Right, let's have a little Illusion Friend. And let's cast the back half of our Otherworldly Gaze. Alright, an Otherworldly Daze for our Otherworldly Gaze, sure. And they get their Beanstalk. Flooded Strand. Okay, so Ichorid isn't coming back. We can Cabal Therapy targeting ourselves. We can attack for 2. And then we can dredge the Stinkweed Imp. And then we can Cephalid Coliseum. And we're kind of getting somewhere, but our opponent feels like they must be able to do something pretty gross at this point. They just like Bug Beans, but with random Leyline of the 5 colours. Sure, that's fine. We can bounce that if we need to. Maybe so they're like 5 colour beans, but they're just using the Leyline so they can be a little bit greedy with their mana base, maybe? Or less greedy, depending on how you want to look at it. We don't have Threshold, so we can't crack these just yet. Unfortunately, we're not bringing this one back. Let's get the Imp. Okay, we're doing this because it allows us to put our Dredger back in, and then we have a Cephalid Coliseum for next turn. I guess we're supposed to tap the Mana Confluence there. We've got a Faithless Looting though, that's pretty good. So I guess we'll discard this, this, and this. Let's play this. Try and bounce St. Catherine. Are they going to copy this? No. Right, let's cast this Faithless Looting. Draw an Imp. And a Troll. Discard these 2. This comes into play. Opponent can't make an Endurance or anything here, so we just attack. And then we'll have a little look at their hand. We do have a Narcomoeba in the graveyard as well. So we will flash back this Thug. When this Thug dies, we get to put our Narcomoeba back on top of our library. What do we think our opponent has? Like, we know they've got a Triumph, so we can just name Triumph. We've got another Cabal Therapy after this, right? A Leyline Binding as well. Okay. So now if we only get 1 zombie if we Cabal Therapy here, which isn't a lot of zombies. But I can live with that. So I'm going to cast this Leyline Binding. Should draw them some cards. Then we get more looks at their hand here. What are we supposed to name? What are we scared of here? More Triumphs are kind of annoying, but I can probably live with that. Because we're going to hopefully go over the top. So just brainstorm. They'd probably cast Brainstorm if they had it. Maybe it is just another Triumph that we name. Right, they just got 2 of this rubbish guild pack. Okay. I'm glad our opponents put some cards that don't do anything into their control deck. There's probably more of a reason they're running them. But it's certainly helping us out. So we get to put the Ichorid in. Okay, so they're putting the Ponder on top of their library. So next turn, we can do a whole bunch of stuff. We've got 2 Ichorids we're bringing back. We know we're getting a Narcomoeba off the top of our library. We have a Cephalid Coliseum. Also, we pop our Cephalid Coliseum in our upkeep, because that means the cards are in our graveyard for our draw step, for sure, to dredge. I have to imagine our opponent's got some pitch cards to make these ley lines better, things like Solitude. Another Ponder from our opponents. Another Ponder from our opponents, with mismatching art on their Ponders. I'm personally a fan of the little Merfolk one. That's when I sort of came back to playing Magic after a break, was Lorwyn. When I went from sort of more casual Magic to going to little tournaments and stuff around Lorwyn. A lot of love for Lorwyn. Excellent design set, but that's a bit of a divergent topic there. So let's just focus on dredging some stuff. All right, so the Leyline Binding. This is probably more to draw a card than it is to like kill our Narcomoeba or zombie. Right, again, rid of the 2/2. Sure. All right, in our upkeep, we will Cephalid Coliseum. So in response to these, because we might hit something better, to exile like a oh, we've already got our Putrid Imp actually, so we're probably not going to hit anything better. We can basically just dredge our whole deck here. Let's get some Narcomoebas. Let's get this Ichorid. Let's get another Ichorid. Let's dredge another Troll. Let's go attacks. Alright, now what are we up to? How many Cabal Therapies do we have? We've got 1 there. Let's fire this one off. Sacking an Ichorid. We're doing our thing, that's for sure. Getting some Poxwalkers out as well. Alright, let's just hit the lane line of the guild pack. We know they got a bunch of them. They got Force of Will, that doesn't do anything. Sign of Draco. Does that give lifelink? I don't remember, but we can get rid of it anyway. We got another... Got Ashen Rider here as well. So probably need to take the Force of Will out of our opponent's hand first. Where is... Do we not have another one? We do not have the other Cabal Therapy. Interesting. We do get to cast this Dread Return still. But is that what I want to do? If our opponent... Oh, we have loads of damage in play. We don't need to go overboard here. I think what we're supposed to do there actually is... No, because we're just not going to resolve anything we're doing there. I was going to say we could try and blow up their lands so they can't hard cast a Terminus. But that's not going to work because our opponent's got a Force of Will and these ley lines of the guild pack to pitch to it. Alright, what have you drawn? Okay, they're just doing a Sign of Draco to draw some cards off the Beanstalk. Sure. So this does have lifelink, but we are going way over that. And we can always hit the ley line if we can find what we need to. Alright, so exile a Thug. Exile a Stinkweed Imp here. And we'll dredge this Thug. Looking for... I think we've got one more Cabal Therapy. There it is. Right, we'll fire one of these off. So our opponent's got a Force of Will, so we're going to take that. Just really showing the business. And we also get to check to see if there's anything weird we have to be worried about. 2 Force of Wills. They have 2 Orcish Bowmasters. That doesn't matter. So we get to Dread Return, targeting our Ashen Rider. And we'll just sack these 2. Doesn't matter. And one of these zombies. The Lord Bridge from below triggers. Alright, so we're going to get rid of the ley line so we don't have lifelink just to really drum it home. So as you can see, we're pretty good against control decks. Like, normal control measures don't work. You kind of need to have stuff to stop our graveyard if you're just going to be playing slow. I'm not really sure that the ley line of the Guild Pact is doing a lot of work in our opponent's deck. it's lowering the density of meaningful cards. But I think if they were playing more pitch spells, you know, if they had a bunch of Solitude and stuff in there, I could see it a little bit more. But maybe they do have them, we just didn't see them. But Solitude is obviously great in this matchup too, because it removes bridges. All right, we are 2-2. So we've got one more round to go. Let's see if we can get the positive record. All right, our opener for the final round is pretty reasonable. We will keep. Maybe we'll draw into a Lion's Eye Diamond and just have a really fun time flipping our deck into our graveyard. I would have Fit Hills pass. Could be a blue deck, could be a non-blue deck. If it was a blue deck, we should just draw and discard this Golgari Grave-Troll. Alright, our opponent's doing something. There's going to be Rhinoceroses. Upkeep Rhinoceroses, maybe. Just a forest. Violent Outburst. Okay, we're going to get a good look at our opponent's deck here. Yeah, so it's pretty standard Rhinoceroses. So now the question is, do we have the... I think we are still just drawing and discarding here. We're going to take 8. And then next turn we get to dredge this. And then Faithless Looting. And then Faithless Looting the turn after, and hopefully that gets us there. But we're going to need some relatively good dredges, because we haven't got the most amount of time in the world. Alright. So we have something a bit more than a Golgari Thug there, but something. So we get rid of these 2 trolls. We can Cabal Therapy and take some stuff out from our opponent. Seems reasonable. Okay, so now we have to decide what we want. I think Shardless Agent is probably what we want to do. We want more of these guys coming in. Seagate Restoration. Okay, so they're all in on what they've got. That's fine. Do I want a Cabal Therapy and just get some more zombies? I think so. Let's just take out Seagate Restoration. That leaves our opponent with 1 card in hand. Okay. We can trade off with these rhinos and they won't remove our bridges, right? Whenever a creature is put into an opponent's graveyard from the battlefield. Okay, so it will still trigger actually, right? It doesn't say creature card. It just says creature. So I think we are taking this. They drew a Thundering... No, they got the Thundering tools, didn't they, before? Attacking with just 1 guy. That's good. That's ideal for us, because we're not blocking if they attack with both guys, I don't think. We don't want our opponent to have drawn a Force of Negation that they can hardcast. That would be bad for us. So we'd hopefully get to flip over 18 more cards this turn. Yep, I'll take the 4. And then we can start trading off afterward. Grave-Troll. We hit a Narcomoeba. That's obviously great. I guess we play out our land. It could come in handy. Right, let's dredge some more. Grave-Troll. And Stinkweed Imp. Discard the 2 Grave-Trolls. Another bridge. So, how interested in attacking with Poxwalkers are we? We attack with just the Poxwalkers here. If it dies, we stack the trigger so we get the zombies. Alright, so then I think we are Cabal Therapying our opponent here. Sacrificing Poxwalkers, who immediately comes back, which I'm loving a great deal here. Let's have some more zombies. Minsk and Boo, I think, is what I'm scared of here. Timeless Heroes. Oh, we hit. We hit the card we were scared of. Excellent. Our Cabal Therapies have gotten us 3 cards. Like, to be fair, 2 of the cards weren't real cards. I don't really know what Graveyard Hate our opponent plays. I'm guessing it's Endurance. I'm pretty sure it's Endurance. So we're going to board in 3 Leyline of Sanctities, because that's what I believe is happening here. So we'll get rid of these 2 breakthroughs. I think Ashen Rider, Hogaak, and Dread Return are also good here. So we get rid of the breakthroughs. They're not as amazing into blue decks necessarily. Certainly not into big complete graveyard wipes like Endurance. We kind of want to have all of our tools here. So we're probably trimming like a Poxwalker. Maybe an Ox of Agonas is a little bit too cute for what we're trying to achieve. I haven't actually done that this round, this league, but it is what it is. I think we go back to trimming these Otherworldly Gazes. We could trim 1 Golgari Thug, but I don't like doing that very much. I find that when you... Like, we would also take the lightning axes, actually. Lightning axe is probably better than a gaze here. And maybe it's better than a careful study. Maybe I'll get bidding off one of these. Because the lightning axes can kill a rhino. But they can also... It's a cost to discard the thing. So we have the Leyline, but we don't have a hand that actually functions here. So we're going to have to send this one back. So let's mulligan this. That's terrible too. No, we're going to keep going. We need a hand that actually plays the game. Alright, this plays the game, I guess. This. So, put 3 cards on the bottom of the library. We don't want Narcomoeba. We don't need all of these Lion's Eye Diamonds. And do we want this Ichorid? I don't think so. I think we're going to run like this. And the aim of the game is Lion's Eye Diamond, play another Lion's Eye Diamond, put our Golgari Grave-Troll into the graveyard in an attempt to have another Lion's Eye Diamond to flash back a Faithless Looting. That's a plan. Is it a good enough plan? I'm not convinced. But it's the only one we've got. This is good enough for a counter spell if they have one. I would snap counter this as far as my opponent's shoes. And they agreed. Alright, so we're going to be on the slow boat to Dredge Town here. So we do want to fire this off now. And just start our dredging going. Because every time we wait, it sucks. Not a fan of that play, but I think we have to do it. Now, if our opponent can just play an endurance against us, then... Well, let's go to game 3, I suppose. That's what that's going to mean. But we mill to 4. You got to play the hand you dealt sometimes. Or every time, in fact. That's how Magic the Gathering works. Alright, let's dredge this. Right, that's something. And we'll pass. Hedge Maze. Sure. Big into the Surveil lands. I think you're going to see a lot of those across the format at the moment. I think wherever you can afford to, you're going to be playing 1 or 2 of them in a deck. Because just being able to, when you don't actually need your mana right there and then, just getting that extra selection is just so strong. Alright, let's keep dredging. Uh-oh. 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 No! My entire game plan. Alright, how many turns can I be bothered to play this out? That's the next question. Alright, it's probably not going to take us long, so we may as well stick with it for a few turns, see if we can see any of our opponent's other sideboard cards. I don't believe we're winning this race. So hopefully we'll see like something else, or well, maybe not, and our opponent doesn't have anything else, and it is just the endurances. Seiju, no, that's not unexpected. Grave-Troll, I think we can call it a day here. Okay, so we sideboarded correctly with the ley lines and stuff, so I think we're just going to ball in again. Maybe we can keep a hand with more resources. I think if we had a Leyline of Sanctity in our starting hand, as well as what we had, so we had 1 more card and it was a Leyline, then I think we probably are odds on to win that game. So our opponent kept a relatively slow hand built around the endurance. This one doesn't play, so we're going to have to mulligan. We're asking a lot from our Faithless Looting, but I believe this Narcomoeba is unfortunately going to go on the bottom of the library. We don't have a ley line, but we might have enough stuff to power through a single endurance anyway. Double Faithless Looting is a lot, and we also have the Lightning Axe to restart things and buy us some time too. If our opponent just slams down a Leyline of the Void here, then we can just scoop it up. But I don't believe our opponent's running those. Alright, Mana Confluence into a Faithless Looting. Let's do some good work, Faithless Looting. I believe in you. This is a very good Force of Negation target, but we do have another one, so it's not the end of the world. Right, it's a Force of Will instead, sure. If we find another land along the way, then we can start flashing these back. Which obviously has a bit of synergy with our Poxwalkers as well. Thundering Falls from our opponent. Gemstone Mine. We may as well save a little bit of life here. Let's Faithless Looting again. Next time we can start flashing these back. Alright. Hull Breacher doesn't actually work against Dredge. Because the Dredge is a replacement for a draw. So you get to keep doing it. Please don't make lots of power right now. Okay, they didn't make lots of power right now. Right, we're taking some damages from our own lands here. Alright, let's flash back this Faithless Looting. Okay, so we get to put our Golgari Grave-Troll and our Bridge from Below, I think, into the graveyard. And then we get to pass. So now we can start doing things. We can flash back our Faithless Looting next turn. Right, if they're going to do some Rhino... No, they're not doing Rhinoceroses. Well, they might still. They might have... No, they can't have 2 Spirit Guides and a thing here. So we should be okay for another turn cycle. They left it on top. I imagine that means it's an Endurance or a way of making Rhinoceroses. Do we have another Dredger in there? We do not have another Dredger in there. Interesting. I believe our opponent has Rhinos in hand. Alright, I think we're going to pass and just hold up this Lightning Axe. I don't think we're doing this. If we draw a land, we can just Dread Return the Ashen Rider. That's pretty reasonable. This isn't necessarily how I drew this game up, but it's the game we're playing now. Force of Negation. That's in the exile zone, is it? That's sad. Okay. But we can still flash back our Faithless Lootings. Carry on. I don't think we'll bring this one back yet. A Lion's Eye Diamond, you say? That is not too shabby. Right, so I think we are hitting ourselves in the face for a bunch again. Hate the way Sea of Brass works, because you have to resolve the trigger, so sometimes you have to tap it in a different way than you would normally tap to cast a spell. Alright, let's flash back. I guess we're going to discard these 2 creatures? Or do we just discard one of them? We discard one and a Lightning Axe. Because we would like the ability to dredge if our opponent puts an Endurance into play. A very weird game. Neither of our decks are like designed to go over this long, really. We're not going to bring this one back just yet. We're going to wait to get another bridge in there. But we will have our Golgari Grave-Troll. And we can flash back this Faithless Looting here. Just keep it coming. Right, we're dredging a Stinkweed Imp and a Stinkweed Imp. And we'll get rid of a Troll and a Stinkweed Imp. Okay. So next turn we're going to be bringing back our Ichorid. Nope, we're just going to die to the Rhinos. Yep, that was part of the issue of doing that, but our opponent hasn't been doing anything for ages. Were they just waiting for us to get low enough? They could kill us. Maybe. I don't know. Like, we can play that one differently and just hold up the Lightning Axe, but... Alright, so we finished with a 2-3, so not a very good record at the end of the day. But let's have a look at the deck and discuss why that might be the case. So, the thing about Dredge is our game plan is kind of the same every game, but the way in which the cards flip up from our dredges and how deep and hard we can dredge is quite variance heavy. Like, you can dredge like 16 cards and hit nothing. Or you can, like, if we'd have hit like a Narcomoeba that turn when we were doing a bunch of dredging, then we'd have been fine. We could have like Cabal Therapy, got a load of zombies, brought back Hogaak, Cabal Therapy again, got all our Poxwalkers back a few times, whatever. And, you know, we would have easily won that game. But that's not what happened. And that's kind of the variance on Dredge. And when you fall on the bad side of it, the deck doesn't feel very good. But as you saw, when you hit on the high side, you just feel like an unstoppable beast who's not even playing the same game. So that's kind of like showcasing today the highs and lows of playing Dredge, I would say. What I would also say is you need to know your sideboard really well. And, you know, I don't play Dredge very often anymore. I used to play it 12 years ago, but the metagame is not the same. So what cards you bring in for what matchups and how you're sideboarding is really key. And I definitely think there's a lot of room for improvement with what we did here. And if you're interested, by all means, check out the Dredge Discord. You get lots of really good advice there about playing this deck. In terms of the Poxwalkers, they felt pretty good. I think I am interested in trying to play a build of Manaless Dredge with 4 Poxwalkers in, because it's just more things that work. So you have more Dread Returns in that deck as well. So you've just got more ways of bringing back your Poxwalkers, which then starts your chain of bringing back your prized amalgams in that deck. And your hits are just a lot harder and a lot denser, right? So I think that's probably what I would like to try. I've got another dredge build, but one of the cards I want for it I don't think is on Magic Online still, which is amazing because it's like 2 years old now, I think, the card. But I've got some ideas, and this isn't the last time I see a dredge, but I'm going to try and brew something a bit more interesting. This was kind of just like the most stock LED dredge build with Poxwalkers I could find, because we're playing the new card, we're trying them out. So, and I've had to use my hard-earned ticks to buy these to make some content for you. So you'll be seeing some more Poxwalkers decks on the channel. I've got some Hogaak stuff lined up as well. I think the card is really cool. I really like this sort of effect. Like, the graveyard is my favourite zone in Magic the Gathering, so I'm always trying to leverage it in ways that I can. As for dredge, I think you're going to see it a little bit more now. I don't think Poxwalkers are enough to make it like a tier 1 deck or anything. I know there's a few builds with Anger running around, playing like Volcanic Islands and things. That build's interesting, and I might try and play it at some point. It has ways of just winning the game on the spot. So whereas we used to use Flamekin Zealot, they're now using like Anger and some other bits and pieces. So that's going to be an interesting one to try. I think Dredge is fine. I don't think it's going to be tier 1 ever again. I think the time has just moved past the Dredge mechanic being too scary. But you never know. Wizard of the Coast could print some really weird stuff. Modern Horizons 2 or 3 or whatever. Modern Horizons 3, isn't it? It's coming out this year. And who knows, maybe they'll print some more dredges, or they'll print something that works really well with dredges. Last time they gave us Hogaak, so who knows what we'll get this time. I think that was last time. Might have been the first Modern Horizons, actually, Hogaak. But either way, so there's possible that we get some more tools for this. I do like the deck, and it definitely has play. If you run hot, then you can definitely smash a load of people up and win some tournaments. But if you run sort of middling, then I don't believe you can. But then again, you could argue that you're not going to win a tournament unless you're running hot anyway. So it just depends how you want to express yourself in Magic. I like having like options with cantrips and tutors and things like that as a general rule when I play Magic, because then you get to sort of express your skill a little bit more. Whereas something like Dredge, you kind of, the skill element comes down to knowing the format, knowing how to sideboard. That's kind of like one of the big hits, as well as also knowing what you need to name in the dark with your Cabal Therapies and things. Like, there's definitely some other sort of nuances in the deck in terms of how you play around certain things and approach certain matchups and whatever. But those are sort of the main make or break points. All right, I hope you enjoyed this one and enjoyed seeing some more Warhammer 40k cards. There's going to be more Poxwalkers on the way, like I said, and some more Morlock stuff. I've got plenty of stuff in the tank. It's just a case of making sure that I can get all the pieces together. I own some of the cards, but I'm not going to be spending a fortune trying to get them because I don't have a fortune. All right. Once again, thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Remember to like and subscribe. It really does help the channel out. And goodbye.
If you'd like to support me in the channel, please check out my Patreon. It has a free guide to budget turbo depths, as well as 3 tiers of support. A low-cost one that enters you into my monthly raffle for a free donation deck on the channel, a mid-tier subscription that gives you access to my detailed turbo depths guide that is updated every month, as well as regular articles, and lastly, the higher tier gives you all of the above, as well as a monthly donation deck for my channel. If you're interested in supporting the channel this way, please check out the link in the description.